Welcome to this podcast, Holistic Creators, where we share our unique and universal stories about shaping the future for the 4 Ps: people, planet, purpose, and profit. My name is Swanet Kunze. I'm a mental coach and your host of this show. My intention for this show is to inspire you on your path to a holistic future. So welcome. Hello and welcome to my podcast, Holistic Creators. My name is Swanet and I'm your host. Today my guest is Reverend Honi Borden, and she's an international inspirational figure that assists humanity to its divinity through Embodied InScension. She was consecrated by the first ray of light under direct guidance and teaching of Master ElMorya of the Blue Flame Temple and the 7 Sacred Flame Temples to embody her I Am presence. She is a TransMedium TransChanneler, light language speaker, teacher, Activator, transmitter of living Krystalline diamond codes of light, Ascension Alchemist, and a messenger of the light from the other side. As a planetary grid activator of Christ consciousness, she activates 40 locations on her 5 years journey by bringing through the Magdalene and Yeshua Codes of light into the Golden Rose Dragon line. Reverend HoniB first awoken to the reality of her higher self at the age of 7 during a fatal car crash. The spiritual journey inspired her first published inspirational children's memoir on 11/11/11 called The Day I Became a Superhero. She has since then been communicating with higher conscious interterrestrial councils, angelic realms, and ascending master for over 30 years. So, Honi, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Svena. It's an honor to be here.
Wow, this really sounds super amazing. And it is like, this is something that is beyond most people can even imagine. And I'm sure my audience is super curious to understand a little bit more about the story. How did you become the person you are now?
I love questions. Thank you so much. You know, I would answer it probably from a different place. We already always are. We are everything already that is already being created, ever was created, ever will continue to be created. And in this human experience, we go through quite a bit of encounter so that in which already is becomes accessible within us, through us. So it's that inner book of revelation opens up. My journey in this human incarnation started a little bit kind of like early, coming in so I can begin to remember earlier, yet there's one thing to remember and then there's another thing to begin living it. So that's where this ascension journey is. It's a long stretch, as you know, Swanet, to start remembering these, the presence of the oneness, and then be put through the test in embodiment. So mine, the very early memory started way before the fatal car crash, and just deeply being aware I wasn't from here, I wasn't from Earth, and I would always tell my parents that, and I would always sort of go sit on a lawn with like a little, not a backpack, one of these cute little, almost like lunchbox things, and waiting for my real family to get me. So it was that deep knowing. I would sit and I would wait, look at the sky, just waiting to be picked up again. I wanted to go back home from very early on. And my parents, usually it was, I was born in the Middle East, so these behaviors were unusual and very strange for them. And the other part of it was I would draw, like as soon as I could draw, I would always draw these circular things in the dining room wall. They would get so upset, and I would say I came through here, and I had this deep knowing that I came to help people. And I would say, but I came to help the people of Earth. It's like, what is this? Like as a 4.5-year-old, I have that deep passion, that desire. It still hasn't changed. That's still very active, dominant as a vibration inside of me, though this vessel has gone through a lot of changes. And the biggest revelation came, there's one thing probably I'll share this because a lot of the podcasts I've never really spoken of this. The very first opening that happened was right before I had the fatal car crash, where I actually drowned in the Caspian Sea. I was with my cousins and my brother, and family was not around, and we were just there, and I was in the water. The water was pooling, and I got lost in the waves, and all I remember was like I couldn't find the way out, and I just saw this light. And this light, and I could tell I was swallowing water, and that was it. And I don't remember anything else. But I remember there was like a hand in that light. And the next thing I knew, I was on the beach. Nobody was around, and I was coughing. And I got up. I think it was like 6. I got up. Nobody was there, and I just walked back, and you know, you're 6 years, you just go about and never talk to anybody about it, never anything. But I remember the feeling was so profound, and like that luminosity. So moving forward, when I was 7, that's when the big sort of like what in human terminology we call it mystical experience took place, when I was in a fatal car crash with my parents. And the backstory is we were driving to Shiraz, which the ancient Persepolis is. I was very fascinated with anything to do with ancient, we didn't have pyramids, but we had these columns, like these columns you see in the back screen, or all of this. I was so infatuated with them, and I wanted my parents to take me to see them. So my brother didn't come. He stayed with my grandmother, so we went. And it was during the revolution in Iran. During that time, the 1979 had just happened, so there was all kinds of uphill around that time, and there was a shortage in gas, so you had like these gasoline things in the trunk of the car so you don't get stuck, you can get to your destination. And the night before, my mother had a horrific dream, and I had a really bad dream as well. But we were very scared of my father. My father was not let's just say he was a very harsh individual, and we were very scared of him, and he was very physically abusive and, you know, emotionally and other things, so couldn't really object to him. So we kind of had to go along, you know. And during this drive, which was through the desert to Shiraz, we experienced, when my mother was driving, we experienced this head-on collision with another car. And I remember right before it happened, something woke me up, and I saw it, and I saw the whole thing happen as the car swirled, and they had been drinking, and so it was this head-on collision. But what happened in that was, at the impact of the collisions, when it was everything got trapped, because the smoke started coming out of the front of the car. My father went into the window, and he was cut in the window. The wheel of the driving broke to my mother's face. It was stuck to her, so blood everywhere, things thrown everywhere. I was trapped in that back seat. I couldn't get out. The doors were jammed, crashed, and like it was a very frightening scene for 7-year-old, and all I could peek and see is just like there's no life, like just all this blood, and it's like a horrific scene. And in that moment, I managed to somehow get myself out of that trap. So imagine the front seat of the car, that little part somehow got thrown in there, and there's things in the car, and I was trapped in there. So got myself out, and I was trying to hit the door to come out. Nothing, couldn't do anything. And I was screaming because I could see the smoke coming, like I'm about to burn. And I could see the other car, that they were all smushed, the 2 individuals that died, smushed. And the fear, I'm about to burn alive, was right before me. And in that second, while I was screaming from fear. I heard the little sound coming from my father, like just a tiny sound, which his weight finally got pulled, and he from the windshield that he had gone in, and he dropped into the scene. And within that second, because there was a life, like a sign of life, they weren't dead, this this thing happened inside him. It was like this spark where suddenly, while my little body was trapped there, I came out of my body, and I was this ginormous, huge thing way out of the car, way like about 20, some, I don't know, 25, 30 feet above this ginormous thing. And within that, I understood that I'm everything. I understood who I was. I understood what I was. I understood that I wasn't that little body. I understood, I saw everything, and everything, it was like this incredible silence and this profound, infinite awareness inside that had every possibility accessible to it. So the next thing was from that, my human body was able to, I remember I looked at my fingers, but they weren't my fingers, and I was able to like very lightly touch the door just slammed open, and my body came out of it and went the other side, lifted my father with one hand, brought him on the desert floor, and we sit on the side, and I just sat next to him. And I was so calm and peaceful. I was so joyous, I have to say, in that moment, because I recognize that's not who I am in that little body. I am this, and it's this that can see. I could see everything in that. So then from that, everything else happened, because then I started hearing all the screams, people being able to rush to the car and like screaming. My parents were unconscious. I thought my mom was actually dead because of all the blood and like that. But my father had some signs of life, and they rushed us to the tiny village, and they were both in coma. And I was just sort of roaming around. And back then it wasn't like you could call telephones and find a family. We went vanished for a week. Nobody knew where we were. But what happened was, so interestingly enough, from this thing, when I pulled my father out and brought him, some witness saw it. So somehow they spoke to somebody at that village, and then this was then printed in the newspaper in Tehran. And then from there, my family was able to find us. And that's how they were able to then fly to come and get us. And then the journey started for my parents to go into operations and all of that. And interesting enough, nothing happened to me. I was untouched in that accident, like completely. I had a little bruise just in the back of my right leg, and nothing. And then for a week after, there's some memory, and after that, there was a period of 9 months no memory. And then after that is all these gifts that I had began to be able to be sort of interacted, such as I was able to see what we call angels. I was able to interact with higher dimensional being. There was one particular blue being with me at all times, all the time. And I was very vocal about this blue being with me. I was able to experience life sensory very differently. Like, like to say flower like this had I music tone, I could see it and hear it, and ultra sensory with everything. And I didn't understand, and I didn't know that people couldn't experience these things. I could see my loved ones who had crossed over walk next to me. They were with me. So it was just very natural, but it was very challenging for being in the Middle East with this family and some of the Islamic upbringing, not mine, but my parents both were non-practicing Muslims, but their families were. So this went against everything. And I had, several UFO encounters with beautiful plasma ships, and I would like, Mom, Dad, like, see, nobody could experience it. So all kinds of other things. And to a point where and it helped me, served me a lot, because right about a little bit after that, then the bombings began. The war took place. So then we had these very difficult life encounters with war airplanes, and dropping bombs, and just a lot of challenge and all that. Yet this blue being was with me, very, very tall, like really tall blue being, and I could tell. For me, it was a him, everything. And I would prepare food for him. He would sit with me. And of course, my parents like, oh, it's her imaginary friend. But school was a problem. It was a real problem, because the kids were very scared of this. So these are some of the things that went on until we migrated to the US. And I began to really, before that, began to experience feeling very unsafe with being who I am, because it's not accepted. It makes people uncomfortable, and then also feeling very alienated and not belonging. So that began. And when we came to the US, obviously I couldn't speak any English. We had lost everything. We had to leave everything. We migrated, so total loss of everything. And I had to learn how to speak English and kind of like shut this down, so I'm not judged and then ridiculed, and all of those things. So, but I had to just shut it and not engage.
Yeah. I totally hear you, and thank you for sharing this and being so vulnerable. Also, like going into details and letting us know how you felt about this and what kind of powers are within you, and became alive in this moment where it was most necessary. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So from my own experience, and I absolutely relate to that, this feeling that you're not at home, that you have a longing to go home to another place, like that you're so incarnated here in this body, but somehow there is another place that is your real home, and on the other side, understanding that you have a mission here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like real parents, like I felt like, where are my real parents? They're wonderful, but these ones are not my real parents. I had to really struggle with that, like real struggle. But it was like a deep knowing. I just wanted to just continuously want to be home.
Yeah. When I was a child, I was 8 years old, I had a near-death experience, and also like from this moment on, feeling this connection to like the higher realms, understanding that we are all connected, and this longing for going home wherever it was, because this moment of being in the light, being in heaven, for me, it was so peaceful, as you described it. It was silent, it was peaceful and loving and calm. And then being back on this planet, it's like people don't understand me. They can't see what I can see. It's, they believe that I'm crazy, but yeah, at the same time, I feel that this is so real for me, as you described it. No, you felt that you are different, and like the children perhaps bullied you because you had gifts or like abilities that others don't have, like I'm clairvoyant and precognitive, for example. For me, it's totally normal to see things that others can't see, and like knowing things from the future, or if you believe in timelines, but from other realms, and being connected to other entities. And for most people, this is kind of weird, and still, of course, you went your way. Otherwise, you wouldn't do what you're doing now. So how does it feel for you? Do you feel that you have always to be brave to stand for your truth and go through these experiences that are really, life-threatening?
Well, I feel there are different stages. When we are in elementary school is different than when we are in middle school, high school, and college. It just goes through so many different stages. And then the stages where we are very open and allowing and full experience. And then when we shut it down and we suffer through it, and then the experience of those walks of life. And I feel for me it wasn't so much of being bullied. It was more like just not being accepted, not being embraced. Like I could experience the depth of beauty. And I like, for example, like when, my grandmother's garden, I would go there and I could see like, wow, like the melodies of the flowers that was going through each other. And they had like this whole orchestra of music with each other. I was like, like total bliss. But I couldn't, it was just a lot more confusion. I couldn't understand why others aren't seeing what I'm seeing, why aren't experiencing what I'm experiencing. And it wasn't that it was something wrong with me. It wasn't that. I was just like feeling more sad. Wow, it's just so beautiful. Why can't they experience this? Like, and then I remember those internal communication, like, God, source, whatever you want to call it, like, God, like, why can't they, like, why can't they experience this? Like, it's so sad. So it was just a lot of that sadness, like, I wish they could also, like, they could just enjoy this also. It's so beautiful. So it's always this, like, my lens would see so much beauty. Then I could see like others' lens are not seeing the beauty of life that I'm seeing, even in the midst of tragedy. And I had some funs around some things, like being able to, because again, my father was a very hot-tempered, he was short-fused man. I don't like messing with him in the way that I could. So for example, like driving to, when we were in the car driving through the car, there was always this, we had to pass this train track, this train track. So I would just sit in the back, I would close my eyes. Okay, when we get there, it's going to be shut and it's going to piss my father off. And I love seeing him get all worked up, pissed off, because just as we get there, it would turn off. Or like, and I could, like, for example, just close my eyes and shut the lights of the street and then do piss my father off. So I had like all these like internal games that, as a child, which is innocent and fun and just, but it wasn't any separation of anything else. It just was, right? They just were. And the revolution and the war did have an impact. The bombs had a big impact. So there's that rattling of the system and safety, security, all of those started. And also the loss of everything, loss of home, loss of everything, and coming to US with only $200. And then my mom having to start life, like the survival and learning. So I understood things had to shut down to start functioning and just trying to make friends and all of that. And those were very lonely years, I have to say. Like, the walk, typically I had friends, I would make friends, but just more lonely, until my father did actually die when he was 21 in actually a car crash. A truck hit his car, and he transitioned. And it was that the door began to open up, because I had to open this door up. So I started interacting with him while he was in spirit side. And that's where a lot of forgiveness journey had to begin. And I didn't want to, and I became very sad and suicidal, because again, I wanted to be me, but I couldn't be the fullness of me because I'd shut the door. So then this had to open up. And then starting to feel safe to be myself, and so that was quite a journey. And I had gotten married at that time to a really wonderful man, and very soon on he got a security clearance with Department of Defense in top intelligence. So with that in the Pentagon, then that door shut down. There were a lot of these things I couldn't talk about at all. So then that became interesting. So I couldn't go into these experience or other things anymore. So then it was another one, like having to just shut myself down that. And that took several years of journey. Then again, it was back again, feeling lonely. I can't be myself, like that, suffering inside. And it's usually because it's so beautiful and you can't be in the radiance of your beauty. So it suffers. It's like that separation from that divinity that you know you are. So moving forward is when I became pregnant with my son several years later. And it was the year 2000 my son was born. And when he was born, Swenet, within that week, that first week of his birth, there were some health challenges that I won't get into, some things. And I it was probably the worst week of my life as a brand new mother, and what I had to face in the adversity with many doctors in the medical community and the choices they were giving, and just the horrificness that he will not live, he won't make it, and they have to operate him, all these things, like he's only this big. And there's something about for me was when I became a mother that gave that birth, something ignited, that door open up, and that ginormous door of the infinite consciousness blasted through me. And so I had to stand up to these 15 doctors and completely refuse. And it was a tough time with my husband because he was so scared. We were both so scared, but I was like, grab my son. I said, and I turned back to God because I kind of shut the door to God, I have to be honest, or source. I just, again, because of the negatively association with it. So I turned back and I said, you did this. You better have answers for me. You gotta tell me your answer. I'm so angry. So then that journey of anger began and discovery. But what happened, that door opened. So, when you open that your door back up again through the love of your child, that's when, okay, things began opening up. And I went through 3-4 years. My other son was born, and I went to study I was at Johns Hopkins studying postmasters in spiritual, in existential therapy and spiritual counseling, because that did, again, the deep desire to help others. And when I was facilitating like my program with the refugees, I was not happy because, again, I couldn't be me in the fullness. I would have to have the one-on-one individual session with them and do testing to send them to psychiatrists for medication. Meanwhile, I'm talking, for example, a refugee, the grandmother standing behind them. They want to tell me what happened so it stops their suffering, but I can't say it. So there's the continuous not being able to share, not being able to express, and eventually affected, a lot of thyroid issues through life. There's a lot of not being able to completely express. But in 2006, I opened the first holistic wellness spa and healing center in the US that was recognized as a socially responsible green company. And I dedicated everything into awareness, bringing light and awareness to it. Because of my child, I wanted other families not to suffer. And I knew this was the door. If people could see, okay, if you keep this temple of God clean and you start giving it the right things and thoughts are clean, you have a greater connection. And from there, things started opening up again, with the angels and the higher dimension being ascended masters. That's when it all began, before I even died in 2012. And I was having so many experiences, and I just wanted to hide it. Again, I'm like, oh my, this is like too much. And people were coming, but other things were happening, and they're like, who are you? What are you doing? I'm like, nothing. I'm just like, for example, doing like microdermabrasion, other things, because I didn't want people to know anything that was inside. Again, like hiding. But sister, that door blasted open, and that passion had come up, yet the full fulfillment of it still I couldn't at that time. Until the pressure of it was so much, because I was having so many experiences I can't even tell, from things appearing and disappearing in the house, from blue beings in the house, from ships coming, from all of these things. And then can't share it with anyone, you know, even though at that time my husband's like, what is this? Don't do this. I'm like, well, it's our son. And my son, he wasn't talking, the youngest one, when he started speaking when he was 5, he didn't speak at all. He started talking about the plasma ships. He talked about the crystals in the ship. He wanted to know where they were. He wanted to know why I was his mother, you know, I was his sister. So I didn't know any of this. So we had to like learn. He had to show me. I had to go take him to the store, show me what to do for his room so he can actually sleep. This is like a 4.5-year-old, you know. So he blasted me open with the gifts of the galactics, and then that interaction started opening up. And just to be able to finally be a mother, I feel like I got the opportunity to be a mother to my children the way I wasn't able to be mother, like supported in that way, you know. And finally 2012 is through a series of things, that this book along the way, one morning, 5 a.m., a voice came, very strong voice, said, it's time for you to share what happened in that accident. I didn't even know who that voice was, but it was so strong. It was a voice I had heard before. So I went downstairs in the basement, sat on the laptop, started typing, and I was transformed to that scene of the accident. And within 3 hours, this book was written, The Day I Became a Superhero, which is for the children to know there's always this hero inside that can come forward, can be unleashed, you know, that you are. And that was published on 11/11/11, and I knew I had to shut my center down. I was having all these mystical, continuously, one after another, mystical experiences to what needs to be done on the planet and what needs to bring it, but I couldn't also fulfill it. The obligations, being parent and being, you know, devoted to all of these, and finally all of that translated into illness in my body that eventually led to a year later to me dying on January 8, 2012, to experiencing afterlife. And that was in its own journey before I was sent back into this body, but a different being in this body to fulfill this mission of this divine plan. So that's where I leave.
This is just wow. And what kind of communication do you have now with these beings? Like, do you hear them, as you shared, like, there was a voice speaking to you to write this book, or you said also you can see things being there, disappearing, like blue beings. How do you sense these kind of beings? And
I'm full seer. I'm a full clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant. You know, I complete, like I can see interdimensionally very easily. I don't, under no influence, I can just relax and I can begin experiencing. And a lot of the other gifts came after I was sent back, after I had died, after life, because then it was necessary for certain gifts to be brought forth when I had to go on the road for these 5 years on this planetary mission to what needed to be done. Regarding that particular voice, in 3 or 4 times in the journey of this human incarnation, I had heard that voice, but I didn't know whose voice it was. It was after, in my afterlife, who I met, that was like, that's who that was talking to me through this, and you know, and which we can get into that as well if you wish.
Yeah, so for me, it's interesting, what are these being telling you? What is like the mission they want to bring through you? Or yeah, what is it that they surround you with, and what you experience and can understand what is that you have to bring here to this planet?
Sure. So let me back up a little bit and then take you to there, because so one of the most important things is, I do want to share this with the audience. This is very important. We are everything, and everything is us. So, and let's say Archangel Michael, I'm also that. And that is also me. It's one consciousness, one presence. So it's not ever outside of ourselves. Ascended masters, let's say Mother Mary, is not just Mother Mary. I've been Mother Mary. Mother Mary is me. You have been. So we are all one consciousness. And that one consciousness is everything. So for the period that I was facilitating, for example, 5 years of past life regression, one of the things, it was a lot into the past life, many lives and between lives. But one of the things that the higher self would then come in after the past life, one of the things that began to really become clear, this is why I completely stopped all past life regression, is because it is truly one consciousness that has had these experiences of these lives, right, into many different ways, and then it becomes more present for that time for you to know something that's part of your human journey. That's all it is. But unfortunately, people are too attached to these things, and it becomes an identity, so it creates crisis and what have you. So in my case, when my heart stopped from the illness and I did die, and I in a spirit body left the human body and went out of that room that I was in, went into that sort of like out of earth into what I would call the stratosphere. The very first being that met me was this ginormous, beautiful pink, light pink with golden white hue. And she had introduced herself. It was more of a feminine presence that introduced herself as Archangel Haniel. So she's the first one that greeted me and circled these three circles of light around my spirit body, which looked exactly like this, however, was not physically focused. So it was spirit body. And from there, it was this sort of like welcoming as I was brought to this other dimensional plane where there were two ways to go through. One to the right was all my loved ones that had crossed over, like my grandmother, my grandfather, uncles and cousins. I could see like the luminosity, the beauty. So there's that luminosity, beauty again right there. And they were clapping. There I was so excited to go see them. There's just this ecstatic joy being back in that non-physical realm. And Archangel Haniel pointed out to me to go, no, that's not your way. You have to go here. And through this other sort of like not a doorway, it was again more circular, but it had these very electric blue platinum color, very couple of different rays of the blue silvery that told me I have to go through there. And it was very much like you go through this light tunnel, like it's so fast. So I had to go there. And when I came on the other side of it, I was no longer in a spirit body, Swenet. I was in complete just consciousness. And this consciousness was that it was very much like that experience I had when I was 7, where it's just that infinite silence and the beauty of that silence, yet it had the colors, like these ever, everlescence, like flowing, like color, like exactly nebula. I was inside of that. And then that again shifted to another plane where then I was greeted in sort of like almost like a room, if you want to call it, but not really, circular room where 12 very tall blue beings were waiting for me. And it was my consciousness that arrived there. And these 6 beings on this side, 6 beings on this side, no hands, no feet, translucent again, with some white, really piercing white behind them. And these blue beings, when I came, it was that ecstatic joy that I'm home. Oh my gosh, I'm home. I'm finally home. Like I'm back. I'm here, my family. And I understood that's my family. And they introduced themselves as the Arcturian Golden Council of 12. And And from that, they brought this screen in the middle, and they started showing me my many, many lives on Earth. And each life with very specific purpose, mission, many different lives I had lived, and down to this last human incarnation and its purposes. So the soul agreements, and particularly this one, why Middle East, why with my mother, father, like why, you know, all of these things were shown that I'm sure you've heard of when we cross over. But it was this galactic Arcturian elder beings that were greeted me. And again, and the other thing that is very significant, on my YouTube channel, there's a full detailed 45 minutes that I go into details that people can watch, but I'm just kind of like going to go through it faster here. What was so significant with this was, with this, from my consciousness, they brought the consciousness of my DNA in the human form in the middle, and they adjusted a few of these key codings in there. And I didn't know at that time what that was. And later, it was because I was being sent back to Earth. At that moment, I didn't know I'm being sent back. These had to be readjusted, which is going to answer the question you asked me when I finished this part. So with that, then after all of this was done, this beginning parting of this bright, luminous, blinding light started to appear, like so blinding, like a tunnel of light, and my consciousness began being pulled towards it, and this was descending further and further. Mine was raising further and further into it, and then this sort of like a form appeared, and it was Master Living Yeshua the Christ. That's who was before me, and and he began speaking right away. And I remember my consciousness, like the love, the ecstasy, the joy of that. Here's beloved Yeshua, the living Christ. Here it is, and here's this, and as he spoke, suddenly there was that. This is the voice that had spoken to. I didn't know whose voice. Here's his voice. So I was back again, more with that ecstatic, just pure ecstasy. But he said, you can't be with us. He said, his words was, you cannot be with us, my child. You must go back and share this with his hand. And this was a body of knowledge that he had shared, what I am to come back to share. And he said, you'll be with us soon. Go finish it. And a few other things that I don't share on the podcast. And with just like that, so quickly, without me being able to ask for anything, I was sent back through all those different dimensional planes and back into the body that I had just left, and jolted back into that body. And then 3 days later, my entire body was completely healed. Everything from my illness, all was gone, and there was a different presence. I was no longer that honey, it's like that other honey had died, and this other honey came in, and the first thing was like my spouse, and everyone was like, you're very different. This is like no longer you. Like, who are you? And that's when, and coming back, it was like a complete different lens that was seeing reality. And it had to be immediately, it was a mission. I had to get on the road. I had to deliver this. And it was very much about this planetary mission, which was this Christ light. So let me just come back to this for a second. When Yeshua did this in that body of knowledge, he had not asked me to go be a preacher. He didn't ask me to go be a teacher. He didn't ask me to become a Christian. He didn't ask me any of this. What he asked me was to be that in which he showed me. That which I refer to as the I am. He gave me the experience of what he was. And he pulled my consciousness for me to experience what I am in that consciousness as an infinite awareness that is the great I am presence, in that presence of what everything already is. So it's that taste. And he said, go be it, live it, embody it. So that's what I was sent back with. Now, there's one thing for that as a mission, and then there's the journey of the walk to be sent back. First, it was on the earth to travel to all these different countries and actually anchor that presence through my body onto the land, onto the belly of Mother Earth, and into the crystalline grids of Earth in this liquid light. I was assigned to the third grid system. Most are assigned to the first and the second. So most have to bury crystals. That was not mine. Mine was very specific in this unity consciousness of the inner sacred divine feminine masculine, and embody it into the body. And the Arcturians had very specific call with this. And also there was also the work of the indigenous on the land. So I had suddenly these indigenous beings that were already part of that land, that were in spirit side assisting. So it was like, and to even get that started was a journey to start going, because suddenly I had to just give everything up. I had to go from everything down to nothing to get on the road. I don't even know how. I can't even explain anything to anyone. It's like total craziness. The only thing was, it was undeniable. I couldn't deny it. I didn't need anyone's approval, and I had nothing. But I had to do it. And so, of course, my whole family was concerned. I lost a lot of friends, a lot of family members. And the hardest thing was being separated from my kids during the time that I would travel. But it was my kids, especially my oldest son, that the journey began. He was young at that time. He was 11. And he said, Mom, God talked to you. You got to do it. I'll take care of his little brother. He said, go. And I remember that conviction in me, like, I can't deny this. So I started on the road, and I tell you, like, airplane tickets appeared, things I didn't have, everything appeared for me. They said, we'll take care of everything. And I didn't have anything. I'd given everything up. And for 5 years, from one place to another place, from a suitcase and a half, I was able to fulfill this part. And I was shown there will be, my divine partner will come where we can then fulfill it together, which then he arrived. We've been together for the past 7 years now. So then I'll let you ask questions.
Yeah, so I really hear you speaking with so much enthusiasm and so much power, and that people who haven't been through this journey, how can they come into your world and understand what you're teaching? Because, yeah, like me, I have been through a lot of experiences that you shared as well. So for me, it's very easy to understand and relate to that. But a lot of people haven't, but they feel that they totally resonate with what you're sharing. So how can you bring people into your world?
Well, I feel it's not for them to come into my world. I feel where I'm positioned, Swenet, is to, I'm not for everybody. That's the first thing. Second is there's plenty individuals for everybody else. I'm positioned in a place where individuals have had remembering, so that I can just support in that alignment, in the embodiment of remembering. So which we'll get to later, my sessions are designed that way. It is not for anybody to come into my world. It is important for them to be held so that they can remember their world, their true resonance, what that is, and is not the world of the outside, the world within. So if there are things that they're resonating in, which I am sharing, is because that truth is also within them, and that truth has to be put into a test. There is a journey for you to remember, and then down to action, down to walk, down to embodiment. So this is 12 years for me now. 12 years ago, I died, crossed over here, and then I had to go through so many stages in this new awareness that came into this, and handle it, manage it, and most importantly, then finally meet all of these denser, tragic, traumatic experiences that the human had experienced up until then, to then meet it with love, meet it with that consciousness, to transmute it so that it can be embodied, anchored. You see, so it's a really deep, it's no joke, and it's not for everyone. And full recognition that this many souls did not decide to come to earth to be a walking, living Christ consciousness. That's not what they chose. But if they chose, that means it's not for the faint of heart either. They are going to have to go through those initiations, and those initiations are very tough. It's not easy. And it's tough because the human self doesn't believe it can handle it. Yet there is the infinite consciousness self that is ready to behold it and love it and allow the human be carried. So the embodiment is the key. And the embodiment, what I mean by that, as an embodied, ascended, conscious being, not leaving the body. The hardest thing is being in the body. Many of our ascended masters that walked on earth before, they did not remain in the body. Once they experienced the illumination of remembrance, they left the body very short after. So those of us who are here on earth, we signed up for what they could not fulfill. And I really speak with that from a place of authority. I'll speak with that, because there are many of us that chose, okay, we're going to come back and we're going to come into this density, and we're not going to leave the body. We're going to be in the body, and we're going to be the living Christ conscious being in this body, not for any other purpose other than because we are the living portal, the stargate, in that the heavenly goods can stream through us just like that for this earth. That's why we came here, to allow this possibility. You can't do this in any other planet, any other star system. You can do it here. And all of those are not out there either. It's within you. So when you recognize, okay, I'm capable, this is your next level of being in that allowing. And to accept, many souls are just, okay, go to work 9 to 5. That is so divine. That is part of their work. There's no judgment at all. But if you know this is yours, then you got a whole different path laid before you. And it is up to you whether you're actually going to take those steps. And this is not one you can talk. This is one that is meant for those who are walking it. And there are few of us that are walking it.
I'm sure that people in my audience will absolutely resonate with that and feel like, okay, this could be me. So how would the process that you support look like? What are these sessions? What are you doing with them?
Okay, so first, most important thing that I like to say before me, what I facilitate as a facilitator, it's really in the individual. If you are called and embodied of your ascension journey, so the name Ascension Alchemist was given to me, so that means alchemizing ascension, that walk of embodiment. So I had to go through it myself, and together with my spouse, and for us to create this, we have an association, Ascension Alchemy Association, which I've talked about what that is, which is the support of this for the online community that we have. The most important thing is individuals who are truly disciplined, committed, devoted, and it's not committed, devoted to anything else, but to that great presence that you are. If that is number one. So those who have kind of like this, they're always extending the energy on the outside, literally living from the outside. You know, it's like from the star systems and this and that, and everything on the outside is their energies focused. This is not for them, because the very thing that happened, you start unplugging from astrology, you start unplugging from crystals, you start unplugging from all kinds of things. They're there, you're not denying them, but you start plugging into the golden cable inside. And that's when you start getting charged and that fulfillment. And you start literally pulling all the supply from within into the out. So it's a whole different walk. And it is for those who are very disciplined. Discipline, what I mean, in their daily devotion. They're not running for everything else. They're actually carving that time and space to harness this, to be with this, that presence, and to allow it. And that allowing also means that they're willing to face these traumas that they could not face when they were 6 years old, when they were 7 years old, 10-year-old. It's brutal, it's hard, but now they're ready to meet it because they can. And they know they're individuals, for example, such as myself, I've gone through it. I can support with you to navigate it, move through it, and go about your life. You see what I mean? So that I feel is very important. Your own individual responsibility is very important. Second part is to know, I work with individuals who know this is the temple of God, source, holy presence, mighty I am, you know, whatever you want to call it, infinite consciousness. This is the temple that wants to house in. So that means if you are diluting it because you don't know, you know, like you want to make excuses why, for example, you're putting these things in your body because, oh, it's okay. That's not going to work because you don't have a strong will. You see what I mean? It requires a strong will, because I see so many individuals, they make excuses. Well, it's okay. One time I do this, twice I do this, or I put this, but there's no respect and reverence for this temple. What it is designed for that presence to come in, you got to treat it like gold. So you got to be so good to it, with honor and respect. And I'm speaking of this from somebody who didn't want to be in this body. I've had to meet this, somebody who's experienced sexual abuse. I couldn't stand being in the body. It was so much easier for me to be out of the body. One of the gifts is being a TransMedium TransChanneler, because during sexual abuse, I could leave the body so quickly. And it didn't, but I had to then force to come back. This was one of them. Start meeting that hatred, that awful feeling of the violation inside, so I can transform that hate into love and not have stings inside of me anymore. So again, this is not a regular walk, my dear Sven, as you know. You walked it, you know it. So it is to then honor this, go from mistreating it, not wanting to be in it, wanting to run away from it, to then learning to really love it. So everything comes back to love. So those that have this awareness, I can walk, I can collaborate, I can assist. But if they still want to go to 300 ayahuasca ceremonies and still think they still need healing, that's not going to work, with all respect. Those have their purpose, but it won't work at this level. This level is when you have put all aside, you're like, okay, it's me and I got this and I can do it. And I'm going to have a little assistance to go along the way. So with what I offer with Ascension, it's called Ascension Alignment. It's over 3 sessions. That's it. It's about a month apart. And the first one, we meet the area of the energy that is trapped in the mitochondria. So there's always some kind of entrapment in the mitochondria in the earlier years that individuals are completely unaware of, that's been playing in their life, in their outer reality. So they experience it, they haven't been able to free themselves from it. So we are able to meet that. And the way we are able to meet it, so in a session, I prepare myself, and then once there's a full email for individuals that have to read and they got to show up for it. This is my master healing that it's a accumulation of many years. And with this, once I sit back, I see 3 screens. One to my right is like the library of records that's in gold. They start showing up very specific about the person. Front of me is the loved ones and the ancestors that have crossed over, ready to bring some information. And to my left is the angels, ascended masters, and galactics. So while I'm sitting here listening to them, there's like all kinds of information begin playing out. And then very gently, so I start asking questions, and we take the person into his place that they don't, sometimes they don't even remember. And I ask, okay, that's something. And then we start together with the person, because I'm not going to go there, do it. I've done enough of that. I'm going to have them do it within themselves. So they learn how to use this skill as well to start transmuting that energy that's been trapped. And that opens it up. And then it's the integration. So over 3 sessions, 2 hours each, between 2 and 3, it's very fast, because they just come into the knowing, and then they go back and they know how to handle things, from that level. Because it just doesn't need, like, it's already in them. You know what I mean? I just assist a little bit. And that's my Ascension Alignment private master healing session in that part. And I do have other part where I have sometimes individuals that truly just, all they really need, they need a safe space to speak. That's it. That's it. And it's that speaking where I just, for an hour, I just sit back and with so much love, because I can see their wholeness, I just let them speak it. I can just hear, like genuinely hear. And I don't have to give no advice, no guidance, nothing. Maybe a couple of words, maybe a couple of, I call them prayer. They're not regular prayers. They're just affirming what they already are. And that's it. Those are the 2 areas in this now where I'm focused. Other areas are, I officiate weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, and sometimes for homes, people buy homes, and that sacred blessing with the crystal rose ceremony. So that's like area of like, that I just love so much, that creativity. So those are the areas that I wanted to share with you.
So the first 2 you do online, like everybody?
About 99% of the time is online, because I have clients from Brazil, Australia, like all over the place.
But if people would really, surround yourself, be in your, you don't say in your world, but be in your space, like really touch you, be with you. Do you also give retreats or like workshops?
Yes, definitely. One of the other things that I want to share is mentorship is very important. Right now, Michael and I together are facilitating mentorship. It's a monthly mentorship. And this is about, again, we are in divine partnership, and we really do not resonate with twin flames, twin souls, or anything like that. So we, through our mentorship, is about the inner divine unity. So we, in this one, is about what is the inner sacred divine masculine? What is the inner sacred divine feminine? What is that relationship? How are they to be in that unity, in their own marriage with each other? That comes from the origin of their source, from source creation. We really support in that mentorship, so people don't start looking for outside to fulfill what is missing inside. Excuse me a second. That mentorship is good. In our retreat, we had one in Shasta this summer. It was for exclusive to our members, the members of our association, which I'll talk to right now. And that was in person, and it was all about embodiment of I am. What is it like to really embody this, to walk it? That was, everything was around that. So I've moved out of all the transmissions, all the activations, all the like clearing, all of that, to just in this, it's much more softer, much more gentler, and so much deeper in that allowing. with the, excuse me, sometimes we have events in person that people can come, and we facilitate events that we have. And in person, again, I feel with our members, we do meet where, depending where, I mean, some of the members, like we have a member in Mexico, Italy, and like Spain, and like UK, and France. But we, right now during travel, we haven't met them in person. So the ones that are in Florida, we can meet in person. The one in Washington, DC, we meet. Yet when we meet, still, like we have the Monday night meditation, we have I Am Conscious dance, we have all kinds of activities. It is very much, we're right here with each other. There's no separation, because the physical is like 1% of us, 99% non-physical. So we're really interacting with the greater part of ourselves. So it's not. I'll go back to one more time about physical. With Michael, him and I facilitate a lot together. Michael is much more hands-on. His background is sports medicine, massage, as well as acupuncture, and then he combines it with his shamanic clearing, angelic healing, and ascended masters and sound, and we have advanced technology. So for those that want really hands-on, like he is the one, because it's just a full combination, and he carries the sacred Christ energy as a male, so that you can really be in that present. What is that like? Mine has always been hands off, like because and further away from the body, better. I don't need to be that close. And so, but if they wanted to have something in person and to be in the physical presence, absolutely, I can arrange that. It's just not necessary at all. That's what I'm trying to say, because it's so beyond, you know.
Yeah, of course. No, I hear you. And my work is also mostly online, but still people ask me, yeah, we want to really meet you in person. And for them, it feels perhaps different being in my energy as well, like really being close to me. And so that I decided to start giving retreats again, and having for them the opportunity to come here to Madeira Island.
Yes, I have done. I have facilitated retreat in many countries, like, and those retreats were focused differently. Our retreats now is really for our members. We can open it up to public as well. And if I have an opportunity just about our membership, what we decided to do, because COVID put a stop to our travel, like for example, when I would come to Europe, I had a 6 weeks tour from this country, that country. I would, we have community in Dubai, community in Turkey that I've taught, in Australia, in South America, like all these countries, but I couldn't travel anymore. So we had to do something and open this space of, which is the online association ministry. And it is about, the mission is simple: assisting humanity to its divinity. That's it. So it's part of my ministry, that service. And we have daily inspiration messages. We have Monday night meditation. We have that Friday, the I Am Conscious dance, and it's all elemental, like, as I also taught that conscious dance, but what's it like to go into the movement and experience that presence within. We have a very beautiful a medical doctor who's one of my best friends, who left oncology. I met him in London 10 years ago, and he lives in Italy. So he let it all go, and he followed his galactic call as a galactic medical doctor. So he's once a month on our association, and his focus is ascension integration. So we get to ask question and answers to support our members, and there's a lot we offer in there. And that way, it's a real heart-centered community, and for individuals to feel support. And we also have a global directory of people who are incredible healers that have amazing products, that have centers. They also offer special pricing to our members, so everybody's benefiting. So it's just a full support of everybody receiving, everybody benefiting, and being very, very heart-centered. And that's where a lot of my energy is focused. And And I'm selective with private sessions right now, because if people want me to go rescue them, I don't do it. I'm so done with that. Like, yeah, at this place, because I know one person, such as like individual like yourself, Swinette, that allows that presence within you have an impact of 1 million people. So I'm not gonna, everything for me is referral. 99% of my clients is only referral. I don't have to put it out. It's just referral. And that will influence tremendously, because we're all connected,
Yeah. So how can people become a member of your association?
Very easy. To send an email, we send one email to you. An email says, okay, here's how to join our association. And I have to share this too. So to join our association is one time $44.44. That's it. And that is very specific amount. And we put that money completely aside because we started a Thriving Woman project. And this Thriving Woman project, the entire money goes towards the women that we know that found their strength. They left their situation that they knew they had to leave. So we support their thriving, not victim, thriving. So that money goes straight to that. And we just had our 1-year anniversary of our association, and we have 200 members that have joined, but we have 35 monthly members that are part of the monthly subscription with the 4 tiers we have, and we're growing. And right now we're in the process of looking for physical space to be able to build the first sanctuary of Ascension Alchemist. So we're kind of behind the scene, very busy. But that's an email. You just send me an email to ascensionalchemyministry@gmail.com. I send it to you. You share everything, and then we have a Facebook private page and a Telegram private page, and you get to reintroduce you, and you get to meet others, and then you get to start getting the daily inspiration messages every day, and with the video Michael and I do, and it's just very heart-centered. And for any private sessions, is just email me at HoniB, HoniB 1111 @gmail.com, and I send a full email, detailed email. It's important to read it because it's a frequency. And for those who then want it, they'll know inside. I don't need to convince anything. They'll know if it is right. Great. There was a client I had that had reached out 2.5 years ago. Every time she wanted to do a session, there was some kind of excuse why she couldn't. So about 3 weeks ago, she reached out. She'd seen me on one of the podcasts, and she's like, "Honey, I am ready." And I could feel her readiness. And Swinette, she showed up like a champ. It was fantastic, because now she was ready, perfect.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and also for inviting people to come to become a member in your association. Last but not least, is there anything that you would like to share that I didn't ask you?
I feel you pretty much covered everything. I feel the thing that I would really like to leave the audience with is you are so divinely, truly perfect beyond your imagination. If you can begin to love that divine perfection in you, you will remove your focus from outside of what you think is missing in you, and you begin embracing what is already in you that is ready to embrace you, to supply you, to flourish you, to nourish you, nurture you, provide you. And I really envision that from that place of love, you can begin to really love yourself, so you can experience all these gifts that are already stored in you. It's not a miracle. It's nothing out there. It's been given to every single person that is incarnated on earth. And you do not need to struggle. You just have to allow love to carry you. That's my only words for you.
Thank you so much. This was a super amazing interview, and thanks for sharing all your insights and your story. And thanks for being my guest on the show today.
Thank you so much, Sven. I'm so honored. I'm so thankful, and so thankful to the audience as well. And please, if you send me email, this is sometimes happens, and people send me, they want advice, they want guidance over email. I mean, I just can't. Like, for me to serve, I gotta be in that presence with you. I can do a lot in there, but I can't over the email. Like, and you share your whole life story. I can't serve you properly. If you give me the opportunity, then I can. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, I will put the links and your email in the show notes. People can also find you on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I will put this in the show notes, and then please,
Yeah, and YouTube, my YouTube, every Wednesday I have a new video. It's about the Ascension Walk series. It's about 12 minutes, 15 minutes or less. And it's really about different topics, part of this journey that can really support you. And I have like little less than a minute messages in there. At least be on there, see if it supports you. And it really comes from my love. So hopefully, if you're open to it, maybe it will serve you.
Yeah. So thank you again being a guest on my show. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening or watching my podcast, Holistic Creators. If you want to know more about how I can help and support you, have a look at my website, spiritualchangemaker.com. You can also join my Facebook group, Spiritual Changemakers Community. Stay tuned for the next episode by subscribing to this channel. And you also can check the previous episodes.